Sup Shredders, my name is Logan aka Spiderhands and welcome to an SP Patrons video today that I'm making for Paul7931 as part of their custom monthly music review. And if we switch over to here, we have got ourselves a track on the screen. This is from Paul McCartney titled the Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band / The End live. So this is a live performance. Now I actually haven't listened to this track before. If I'm honest, I'm a little bit inexperienced with the Beatles stuff in general. I kind of want to do a discography review of the Beatles, but I know that they've got a lot of re-releases in other forms, and they've done heaps of remasters and stuff. So I'm not sure how messy it would be. It might just do the original, like the early stuff. But anyways, we're gonna listen through this track from start till finish, and we're gonna hear what we think. Let's go. Really wide panning on the guitars. I like the banter with the crowd. I will give that to Paul McCartney. He's a really solid frontman. Lots of tension with the lead lines and the vocals. Solid drum grooves as well, actually. Oh, it gets a drum solo, right? Is this through composed? Kind of amazes me they can share a microphone like that, eh? By the way, it's cardioid. See, that'd be really difficult because you really don't want to look like you're trying to outshine Paul McCartney. Like, how do you balance that, right? Great use of double kicks on the kit, man. A little slide as well. It's actually phenomenal. Great unison there between their parts. I mean, that's just phenomenal, isn't it? I know we'll watch till the end, but that's just a phenomenal performance. I wasn't really sold on the track until we got to that last little bit, because I was like, why have we got so many guitar solos? Even if they're trading off as that part of the original song, or are they in Brazil? I mean, they might be in Brazil. There's also a Canadian flag there.
We love you. See you next time.
Maybe it said in the title? No, it doesn't say in the title where they are. I think that's just the end of the concert, isn't it? All right, let's talk about this track. So it's a really interesting piece. And welcome to the conclusion of my review of this track from an actor named Paul McCartney, titled Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band / The End Live. This is I think the last performance of the night, or the last song of the night for the gig they were doing. What do I think the track is about? I think it's about people talking about love, and maybe they are alone in a band, and maybe they haven't loved enough, or they are loving enough. Maybe they're trying to teach people how to love. The line, because I missed a lot of what was going on in the early parts of the verse simply because I was just trying to take in everything else. Because to be fair to the composition's pretty insane. There's a lot of attention to detail with the different little guitar parts, drum parts, even like a drum solo like that in the middle is pretty wild there. The bass lines and keys and all that kind of stuff, the different tempo shifts and such. It's an incredible track. It's almost like a stage show or like a theater performance or something like that. It's wild, man. The love you take is equal to the love you make, or something like that. Maybe we're sort of trying to communicate that in order to find love in this world, you have to like give it out or something like that. Is that what the purpose of it is? Maybe they were in a band and they were lonely and they realized that in order to be loved, they needed to love first. That's basically. Can you let me know in the comments, because I feel like I'm drowning here. But effectively, I think nonetheless, for me as a reviewer, the story was cool. I think if I listened back to it, I'd have it on a second glance, but a lot of my attention was drawn to the way things were played. To be fair, though, I think Paul McCartney, as well as the other singers, because the drummer was singing, the other guitarists were singing, everyone was doing backing vocals and having their own lines and stuff like that. I think legitimately, Paul McCartney has a great voice. Never really been much of a fan of his solo work or anything like that, but I think that the stuff in the Beatles was dope. I think that it's great to hear. I'm not sure how old he is at this point. I know that he's getting on a bit now. His voice, it's still pretty good. I would assume this is probably a little bit after the 60s when this was done. I could be wrong, but I think that his voice still sounds good. He holds really great head and chest voice there. It's worth mentioning, my understanding of the Beatles is like when they started out, they were doing like live gigs 7 nights a week or something like that before they got big. So we're a skilled vocalist, we're competent, and we can play the guitar really well. There's some nice lead passages. But ultimately, it's all about the showmanship there as well, the personality behind it. We captured the emotion, I think, of the different lines as we were playing them very well. It's a class act. It's not difficult to understand why Paul McCartney, or Sir Paul McCartney, was so successful. And I think this is a really wonderful vocal performance here that demonstrates his capacity in that route, as well as continuing on the legacy of the songs and where they came from. But I think the backing vocalists were on point as well. It was definitely like a live kind of rockish kind of performance, if that makes sense. We weren't trying to sort of sterilize or make it sound perfect or anything like that, but we didn't need to do too much work to get there. I think ironically the fact that it was kind of raw in parts and more sort of energetic and sort of vibrant than maybe it would need to be if we'd been more careful is reminiscent to the fact that they simply know what they're doing, and they're right at the point, the apex, of their craft. But I sound like I'm being almost too kind there. I just really like organic performances vocally, and I'm glad that the story made sense with the way we were singing. The track at 5 minutes 10, or like 4.5 minutes, should I say, because we stopped and there was like 40 seconds of confetti or something like that. The track was really incredible. We had a lot, again, bass, drums, guitars, keys, and vocals as the dominant elements there, but there were just different guitar solos and drum solos and different vocal passages there with the bass line and such. It's complicated. It's a very complicated piece. It is through composed. We didn't necessarily hang on a line for too long. It was more like we're taking an adventure, a journey with the musicians on stage, and I think part of that is why it's so beloved. It makes you feel great, especially with those really interesting, unusual chord progressions near the end. But you only get there because of stuff like how we were repeating lines with the vocals. Like in the earlier part, we had like a constant sort of like stream of that information coming in, almost like we were leading up to something within the first minute. And then we had like those solos and things went down, but kind of went back up again because of the drum solo. And then we came with the different parted guitar solos, and it was nice to have the transitory work between them. I'm trying to sort of make this a more structured review, but I suppose just a lot to talk about. But without overdoing it, if I look at a few of the different instruments, I think the guitar playing was great. We explored the bar chords and sort of power chords really well. Some bluesy intonations there, nice use of unison bends, as well as like the typical kind of hammer-ons, pull-offs, slides, etc. We had some slide playing with the bottle there. Lots of little tippy-tappy bits and fancy stuff towards the end of the individual solo section. We were starting to really show off near the end of it, so it was kind of wacky, kind of fancy stuff, which was fun. It seemed like Paul McCartney and the other musicians on stage were just having a great time. Again, I think I mentioned that it's really important not to try and overshadow Paul McCartney. Not because I hold him on a high standard or anything like that necessarily. It's just when it's their song, and I don't think they're the people who initially played a guitar on the original. You gotta kind of play at their pace and try not to outshine them unless you got explicit permission to. And I don't know, but they nonetheless were phenomenal guitarists, and I think that they managed to niche their own styles into the track in a way which kept their own sense of individuality, while at the same time, really just they managed to make it work both ways and have their cake and eat it too. But I think that the lead parts were great and the rhythm parts were vibrant. The bass playing was typically nice and controlled on the low end. There was a nice sort of sense of keeping it relatively conservative whilst not being too sort of like obtuse. And we had the foundation on the low end and kept a nice sense of pace with the drums and stuff like that. But we also knew when to sort of step away, like when there was that sort of drum solo, etc. The drums, by the way, were phenomenal. I think that the playing from the percussionist was sensational. I looked at a few comments of this video before reviewing it, and people were very stoked with the drummer. Great sense of pace, just played like a metronome, had a huge amount of personality behind it as well. Lots of variety to the hits and different fills and various parts there. Still didn't overplay despite the complexity of the piece. It honestly wouldn't have surprised me if it was improvised, considering just how clearly sort of skilled the drummer is. But either way, just sensational effort there. They had their shot and they nailed it, and they also knew when to sort of step away and keep things relatively chill, such as when there were the different lead guitar parts. And they when the piano came in, the keys with that little section before the big finale or something like that, it was just so intimate at the same time. There was this wonderful range of different emotions, this variety there, tonally, texturally, and in regards to timbre there, that elevated the live performance to a place where I think it was kind of what the song needed to sound like. I just think the relative simplicity of the key parts was just the icing on a cake there, We had lots of different vocal bits, lots of different guitar lines. The drum lines were hugely sort of lots of different fills and beats and stuff. So for the keys to kind of coordinate and finalize the different progressions there, but also to back up the maybe more unconventional accidentals or parallels that we had, it was wonderful. I think overall, the track, again, with its bluesy intonations going into sort of a big kind of stage band kind of thing near the end, the huge finale, it was just incredibly charming. I think we played in ways with chords, with melodies, with rhythms and grooves there, which elicited the energy, the good vibes of the overall piece. We never got too dark with it, it wasn't too sort of negative or grim. I think it was sort of wholesome. There was a great sense of warmth from it, from the major and minor tonalities of the triads and such, all the way up to the bluesy kind of old schoolish kind of extensions, which kind of looked back at a lot of the lead phrasing from that time in the 60s and 70s. I think if the harmonies had been any more complicated with extensions and stuff like that, there might have been dominant seventh chords in there, but I think it would have taken away from the big picture that the song was trying to communicate with its overall theme. It basically tried to encourage you to be okay with maybe not having the amount of love you want, but kind of also hinted at a way you could get there. And I think that's sensational. I got the impression overall that there was no filler within this track. There was not a note out of place with the performance. It's very, very, very convincing, and I actually enjoyed listening to it. It was great. Finally, the studio recording, mixing, and mastering. It was interesting. I liked how the vocals were recorded and the guitars were recorded and the bass and drums and keys. It was a little bit uneven with the guitar tones at the start. One of the guitars sounded like they were a little bit louder on the left side than the right, and it was a little bit disconcerting, and I'm not sure if that was a production decision or something that they were doing on purpose to kind of mess with the listener until they all came in, as that can be something you can do is leave the stereo field image uneven so that people are like, oh, I'm going to keep listening until it resolves, and when it does, you're like, oh, that is so satisfying. And it did resolve later on. It sounded nice and full, but that's the only sort of mild complaint I have, is that I didn't necessarily know if it needed that, or I didn't know if that was an accident or not. The this frequency spectrum, totally handled, no resonant frequencies there. Paul McCartney's vocals, as well as the rest of the singers, they came through clear with a great sense of presence. For a little sort of filtering or modulation on those, we didn't need it. We just needed it kind of raw and like live. And I think if you'd saturated it too much, it wouldn't have really had the same effect. The takes on the drums, guitars, bass, and piano were just sensational as well. Just phenomenal chemistry between the band members, and that was captured within that essence there. You can understand why the crowd was so into it from start to finish. Great amount of dynamic range there, but the difference between loud and quiet parts there, we didn't sort of squeeze things too much. It was also, nice and loud without pumping, so the bus compression limiting was handled. I mean, effectively, this is just a really positive review of this track from an act named Paul McCartney, titled Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. The end, and hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please go show us love via the various social medias and the YouTube page, and stay cool and stay safe, and please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as they need to help more than ever with all the crazy stuff going on in the world. And I'll catch you in the next SB Patrons video. Spiderhands out.